Louise Bedford here. Linda Raschke from lindarashke.net is a world-renowned trader with a top-notch record spanning 4 decades. She began her professional trading career in the early 80s and has been the principal trader for several funds, including her own hedge fund, which she started in 2002. Linda retired from her own hedge fund in 2015 and now still trades, but also very much enjoys playing tennis. She considers herself to be semi-retired and is the author of Trading Sardines. She's honest, upfront, and effervescent, and is known for her pearls of trading wisdom. She's also featured in the Jack Schwager Market Wizards book series, and in this interview, you'll learn about Linda's trading routine that she's had for over 40 years, ways to manage stress as a trader, and how to handle the market highs and lows. I'm so glad that you could make it.
Thank you for having me.
A market wizard and knowing everything that you know about the markets in so many decades of trading, I'm so pleased. I'd like to ask you, tell me about the emotions that you felt on your first 7-digit profit day.
I didn't really feel emotions so much as I did the endorphins. I mean, I was very relaxed and calm. And I remember I had to take my daughter to karate class, which I actually went to as well. And all the trees were green and the sky was blue. So I would have to make the analogy that it probably would be similar to somebody that's surfing and they finally catch a really big wave, and ride it successfully, or perhaps you tackle a ski slope and, just nail it being in the groove. And then at the bottom, I mean, it's very satisfying and, but you're not jumping up and down or anything like that. You're like, yes, that felt good.
And we try to recapture those moments. You remember what that felt like and you try to get it again and again. And of course,
no, you can't do that. No,
it's hard, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it's because you got lucky and that just worked out, but you can't play for those types of things. You really have to kill those expectations because they'll make you go on tilt one way or another. So no, it's like, I guess, playing cards and you recognize you got dealt an exceptional hand, but you can't force those things.
You
can't try to get that again. You just, that maybe 1 out of every 1,000 trades might be that way, but just satisfied with what you got.
Yeah. You said luck though. Do you think it is luck?
Luck is the residue of effort. So it's always positioning yourself in the direction to take advantage of an open door, and whether the market gives you that or not is up to Mr. Market, but you're just trying to position yourself correctly if that does happen to come along. So yeah, it's definitely a certain amount of luck because we can't control all the variables out there. So anytime that you cannot control all the variables, there's an element of luck.
And what about when you've had to cope with a loss? So some of the losses in my trading career have definitely stood out in my mind. How do you cope with it?
I usually just bury myself in research. Some of my most productive periods have come out of that. I mean, that losses are part of the game. You never expect the losses to be as big as they actually are. But I also, you learn pretty quickly as a trader that time heals everything, no matter how big the loss. So I had a very, very, very big loss, when I was first starting out, and it took, maybe 4 years for time to overcome all that. And then usually I know if I had a very big loss, it might be anywhere from 2 to 4 days, but that time's going to pass and you'll be right back on track. So I guess with experience, you just expect it to pass and you just keep yourself busy in the meantime. And like I said, I like doing research and burying myself in charts to figure out where that loss came from and how I can be on the right side of it the other time. So
I've found as well with recovery, those first losses, they just took me for a complete surprise. I was shocked at how much it viscerally affected me, and it took me like weeks to recover. But now it can just be a few minutes and then I'm back into it. Have you found that as well, that your recovery time after a loss has shortened?
I would expect it to, of course, but I'm not trading the size that I used to trade. So I'm sort of retired, if you might say. So I trade, but again, not with the leverage that I used to.
Yeah, the leverage can make a huge, huge difference. How do you feel your trading has changed over time? So, size is one thing. What are the other aspects?
I'm not trading full time like I used to. I'm not running my full program. I'm not doing the time at night for the homework that would be required for me to trade my full program. So, I'll sit down for a couple hours, very early in the morning and in the evening. Most of the time, I'm trying to stay out of the office during the day so that I don't trade right now. So, uh, just trying to stay retired. But I'll always be involved in it. I'm still in front of my screens 4 to 5 hours a day.
The lure of the markets, once it's in you, it's very hard to resist, isn't it?
It's more the camaraderie with my assistant that I taught over the years, and 3 or 4 other traders that I've known for 20 years. We have a little Skype group online. And it's a social camaraderie that I can't get elsewhere. I've tried to build out a network of friends through tennis. I've been very aggressive, and tennis is my full-time job now, until there's injuries, of course. But you can't get that same intellectual satisfaction and camaraderie in outside areas. So I like the markets for that. And the people in my Skype group, it's about 5 people that I've known for 25 years. They originally came to courses I'd done years ago. They're professional traders, and where they just trade, in retirement as well. So they know all the lingo, and it's fun. We know all the little buzzwords in the lingo, and our little secret language and our little private jokes, and that makes it enjoyable.
It really does. Do you think that that's a key component of people's trading success, that they do need support?
No, I don't think it was at all. It certainly wasn't with me. I think in the beginning, it's really important to eliminate all distractions. That's just the number one ingredient for achieving success, is your ability to focus and concentrate. And I think that that's sort of a lost skill, if you want to call it that, with the majority of people that have been trading for under, just a couple years or are looking to enter it. And I think that's just going to be one more thing pulling you outside of that focus zone. I think it's okay to have one buddy, an assistant, a comrade, a buddy that you can share your ups and downs with during the day. Anything more than that, you're going to get influenced by opinions, or just start to engage too much, where it does become a distraction to monitoring your signals or positions or whatever it might be. So I think that you can indulge in that after you've attained a modicum of consistency and established your own style. That has to come first.
I do find as well, with all of the distractions in modern life, we're trying to bat them away so that we can just get time to focus. I also see that in my traders, that a lot of them spread themselves quite thin. They trade a multiple of markets and a multiple of time frames. I know that you've specialized in the futures market in your own trading. What do you think would be the best option for people? Should people specialize in a particular market, or should
They should learn one market, just specialize in it, do it well. So you either concentrate on just one market, such as the S&Ps, is what I would recommend, because they have the greatest length of line intraday and for day trading purposes, either that or the boons. The boons are a great vehicle as well. Or you specialize in a system, and you have to be very methodical about that, like a volatility breakout system or a seasonal program where you can keep statistics against the system's statistics, which will always vary. So in that case, you can have a portfolio. Perhaps you're just looking for one pattern or style of trading. If you trade stocks, perhaps you specialize in looking for the stock that has that extra large opening 5-minute bar accompanied with a double in volume right off the opening. And you know that you're going to be able to capture a ride of maybe 30 minutes on that trade. Maybe it'll extend into something more, maybe it won't. But then you need a basket of markets to scan to look for that one type of trade. So it's got to be one or the other, but you can't sit there and mix stocks and futures and crypto and all that stuff. It's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and I think it's also much more difficult to be mechanical. How important do you feel it is to be mechanical in the markets?
If you're trading a system, by all means, you want to be very methodical in following the process of making sure you have your resting orders out there, making sure that the fills are correct, making sure that the appropriate management functions are enabled. So that would be on a 100% mechanical system. For example, a trend following system or a volatility breakout system. Most of the super, super, super large funds, mega billions that do trend following I'd rather use the word systematic because you can vary the leverage on those types of things. So perhaps systematic is a better word than mechanical. But I think that taking that to the discretionary level, I think you need to be systematic with your processes. So I've never been a mechanical trader in any means, but I've been very systematic with my process at the end of the day, the preparation for the next day, just in how I go about things. And I've been fortunate, so I've usually had an assistant to enable me to do a little bit more than probably most people would be able to. I don't think I could have done all that I did just solely by myself. But yes, you do need to be consistent in
Yeah.
whatever you're doing, except impulsiveness. Do not be consistently impulsive because you'll destroy yourself very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think everything that you're saying, having that structured approach, being methodical and following systems, this is really the essence of what we're talking about. That you can't just sit down and slide uphill. It will take some work and some effort to get you into that mindset. How important do you think work ethic is for people who want to trade effectively?
Well, I think that trading, if you're serious about making it on a professional level, it has to be the number one thing in your life. No ifs, ands, ors, or buts. And if you're married or have children, that means that you need to have a spouse that can help support that, because there is a lot of time and energy that you're putting into it without any immediate payoff. So I worked every weekend. I was in my office every night till midnight. I had the luxury of having a husband that did all the grocery shopping, did all the cooking, prepared all the meals. I had a kid, he took the kid to the school and the parent teachers conference. And I could just be isolated in my office, 24/7 essentially. And I think that's pretty much true with any performance oriented discipline. If you took a sport, tennis, golf, you're immersed in it. If you are a musician, you're practicing or performing all the time. So any performance oriented discipline is pretty absorbing and it's hard on relationships, and people have to understand that.
Yeah, I've got a similar situation with my husband. We're very lucky to have a supportive spouse, but a lot of people don't have a supportive spouse. What would your thoughts be to assist them with trading success if they don't have somebody who's behind them?
You don't necessarily have to have somebody behind you, but you have to make a choice. You have to say, I'm choosing to grow my relationship and make that more important. That is, if the other person is not accepting of the time, involved with trading, or you need to sit down and make a pact with them and say, okay, this is what I want to do. Just as if you're a medical school student, you're going to have to be in medical school for N number of years. It's going to take N number of hours and study and everything else. So think about it the same way. And you make a pact with that person and you say, this is what I need to do in order to fulfill my dreams, or at least try to accomplish them. And in exchange, I'll spend every Saturday with you, and we'll have a date night every Friday night. And, you negotiate so that your other person's not feeling left out. And otherwise, you're just not going to have a relationship.
Mm. And that emotion is so important so that you can get that time to focus. I've heard that you have said in the past that if a bomb went off in your office, you wouldn't even notice because you're so focused. How do you maintain that focus?
I think that for me, I'm just very good at concentrating, perhaps because I was a pianist growing up. And so you sit down and you have to practice the piano. I mean, when I was in college, I would practice the piano 6 hours a day, every day. So you're in a little practice room, which was not very glamorous, with not the greatest pianos. And you're sitting there, and it could be night, it could be Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, and you're practicing and nobody else is around. But it was also, a really great feeling to work on something, sink your teeth into it, and then you finally reach that point where it just flows. So I could take that same concentration from practicing the piano to sports. If you're practicing tennis, just focusing on the tennis ball, that's an easy transition for people, or golfers, or it could even be gardening, or it could be any outside discipline. You have to think of something in your past that you did when you were young where you were completely absorbed in it. And it didn't have to be for 6 hours, but that same type of, absorption. And the big problem with, our society today is that social media and so many distractions, people, especially younger generations, have gotten very adept at multitasking. You see, so they don't see any harm in that. But multitasking actually is a huge distraction. And it's proven that you are prone to making many more mistakes when you're multitasking. It decreases your efficiency and you work slower. It also changes our brain in not a good way for trading. So I think that if anybody's really serious about improving your bottom line in this business, you have control over your environment. You have control over all kinds of ways to eliminate distractions. You see my office, I don't have any TV in here, never have. You can I keep my cell phone in the kitchen. You have control over your environment, number one. And you also have control over whether you're going to sit there and sneak onto the internet and look at Twitter or check your email or those types of things. You couldn't do that if you were a surgeon, doing surgery. You would be 100% focused on your task. And so you have to really think about, okay, it's fun, it's a sport, it's, charts, it's, let's get our dopamine buzz from clicking the mouse in the markets and feeling like we're a big trader. But if you want to be more than that, you really have to think of yourself as a professional, as a person. Perhaps I like that study with medical school students and surgery and stuff like that, because you have to be 100% concentrating, and that'll really make or break your ability to make it in this business. It's maybe only 5% of all the people out there make it, period. 5% of all accounts are going to be profitable enough to pay the bills. I mean, I'm not talking about just making $10,000 or $20,000. I'm talking about being profitable enough to make a living. 5%. So what's going to differentiate you between all those other 95% of the people?
Absolutely. I like how you're relating your previous background to how to apply that type of focus to trading. I am a big follower of Angela Duckworth and her book Grit. Harvard actually has done a study where children who had that type of karate background, there was some sport, there was some musical instrument, and they've looked at those kids compared to when they come out the other side at Harvard, how they've performed, and their performance was actually higher because they did have that level of concentration that you're exactly describing here. So the research does back everything that you have said, which is fascinating. Did the way that you're thinking about the markets, has that influenced your role as a parent with how you brought your child up?
No, not at all.
Oh,
I
really? Oh, I put my kids into jujitsu because I wanted them to have that level of focus.
I kind of, I figure that like a child is like a dandelion seed, and you blow the seeds off with the dandelion, and you kind of see where they fall and what their interests are. So I introduced her to a lot of things. We did karate, we played tennis, she had a pony, she rode, but none of those things were things that tickled her fancy or rang her bell. And ultimately, she gravitated. I tried to introduce her to the piano. She didn't want to practice the piano. So she started singing, and then she went to University of Miami in their music department, and then she went to graduate school at Indiana University to become an opera singer. And she went to Vienna, and she went to Italy and all these places during the summer and sang. I would have never been able to predict that or forecast that, when I was bringing her up. But I just thought it was important to introduce her to nature, hiking, sports, music, these different things. And it's funny because one day she comes to me, and we had a barn on our property, and she says, Mommy, I don't want to ride anymore. This is like when she was maybe 14. I said, oh, okay. She goes, no, I really want a surfboard instead, because we live in Florida near the ocean. I'm like, well, that's a slam dunk. That's a whole lot cheaper than having horses. So yeah, the horse got sold and bought $100 surfboard, and there you go. It's like, so you have to listen to your kid and follow their, dreams and interests.
Yeah, absolutely. I know in the past when we've chatted, we've talked about how you don't talk to people about the positions that you're in when you're currently in them. Now, I'd like to talk about that now. Can you tell us why you feel that way?
Oh, there's so many reasons. First of all, the minute you vocalize something, you've locked yourself in, you've backed yourself into a corner, and you take away your flexibility, and you've added one more layer of bias to your existing position. And I want to feel free. If I put on something and all of a sudden I'm just not feeling it or I don't like it, I hit the flatten button. I don't even bother to put in an exit or stop or something. I'm like, this is not acting like I wanted it to. It's like starting to, I don't even, it's so rare that I even have a stop get hit, because I'm usually like flattened beforehand. And it's more difficult to do that, I think, if you put your position out there. You just take away your flexibility. So I am very much a poker player. I mean, I don't actually play poker, but I'm very hard to read. If you saw me, you wouldn't know if I was making or losing money. It could be the greatest day of my life or the worst day of my life. You would have no clue. So I just try to internalize it and make my best judgments to myself and manage things as best I can. And that's what works for me. I don't know if other people, you could say that there might be people out there that sometimes people need a little bit more juice to pull the trigger, or I'm not into I see the egos out there. Maybe that's a driver for people, certain people. I don't know, because you have to have something that's a strong enough motivator for you to pull the trigger in the first place, at least if you're risking a decent amount of money. So for me, I just like to find my own space and do it that way. But maybe other people need that, kind of like maybe a guy thing or something. I don't know.
I also wonder if it's back to that dopamine kick.
When you look at the neurochemistry and stuff like that, most of the dopamine tends to be extremely short term. It's like a
Yes.
click on the mouse, boom, that's it. It's a little squirt. So it's not really a longer term type of thing
Hold.
like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that you're a big believer in balancing out the demands of the market by doing things that are physical. You've got tennis here, which is your latest love. How do you work that into your routine?
You wait till the markets are closed and then you run out and do whatever. I mean, I've always done that. I would have to say that when I first started off trading in San Francisco, I would get back from the exchange about 2 o'clock in the afternoon by the time I commuted out of the city again. And so I would always go jogging because there was beautiful places to run. I had a buddy, we'd go jogging for an hour. Um, Cost free, didn't cost money. Or I'd play tennis, or biking. I used to, bike a lot. And all of those things were great. Of course, I lived in California, so it was easy to do with the weather. And then there was a period when I lived out on the East Coast, and I would actually work out in the morning. I had a trainer come to the house like early, 6 a.m. And but then after the markets close, again, there's so many options or choices of things that people can do. I think you just have to leave the office after the markets closed and get it out of your system. And there's so many different types of activities that you can do. So I probably was one of those people that went overboard in trying to do 2 or 3 activities, just to release the buildup of tension and so forth. But it doesn't have to be a costly hobby. You could do gardening. You could just sometimes taking the dogs for a nice long walk every day is very therapeutic. Look at the trees and the nature and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was very physical. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I've been interviewing people, Jamin Fraser, in particular, and Paul Taylor, and they were talking about macro and micro recovery breaks. So having micro breaks throughout the day so that you can burn off that energy, and then having a very good macro recovery break routine, watching your sleep, making sure that you have some breaks, and that longer term type of idea where you're looking forward to a holiday. So I think that can also be of assistance. If you had your time over again, what would you do differently?
I probably wouldn't have been so hard on my body. I've had one hip replacement. I need another hip replacement. I probably need a shoulder replacement. My other shoulder is arthritic. It's a challenge. All the little things that come up when you're my age. I probably wouldn't have been quite so hard on my body.
That's a really good point. You look amazing. I can't get over that you're saying that you're retired, frankly. I think a lot of people give up far too early and they don't allow for a long enough learning curve. What would your advice be to them?
Well, then you probably don't have a very realistic expectation, or analysis of the business. Even if you take something, okay, if you do consider that you're competing against an arena where maybe 5% are going to be really, really successful, and you're competing against those. Let's take something non-physical, for example. Let's take bridge, okay? It takes a minimum of 4 years to become an elite bridge player. Minimum, probably much longer for most people. And that would be if you were playing like 3, matches a day, every single day of the week, in order for you to build up that much time under your belt. Because with bridge, there's 750 trillion different combinations of hands. All right. So, yes, you can learn bridge and to play as a fun novice type of sport, mind sport, if you want to call it that. That's the differentiation, because we have a Cartesian dualism between the mind and the body in Western civilization. So I'll call it a mind sport because that's the closest parallel to trading. Okay, so that would be like really a minimum of 4 years and constant play. And so I think that if you went into trading with that expectation to expect to break even at best, your first year, and at least have 2 years living expenses set aside, and understand that it's no different than studying for a medical degree or trying to become an elite bridge player or any of those things. It's not just about seeing technicals. It's about all those technicals mean different things in different contextual environments. And you can only see all those different contextual environments over at least a 5-year window. Bull markets, bear markets, dull markets where nothing's happening, regime change, all the different types of things. And of course, solid technical tools will always be your safety net underneath you, understanding the, support and resistance type of thing. I'm always been just a very classic technician, just with the charts, support, resistance, false breakouts, trend lines and stuff. But you have to see those in so many different time of day, time of year contexts. So I think that it's just a matter of staying in the game for 3 to 4 years. And of course, it was a very seductive environment this last decade. Because, the old adage, it don't take brains to make money in a bull market. But, we were facilitated with a ginormous tsunami wave of easy money. And that's sort of a one-off. Something like that probably is only going to happen once every 200 years, unless we totally can't manage our debt and we blow ourselves up, which is probably going to happen one way or another. But the environment that we were in for the past 10 years is not going to happen in the future, and so people that got used to doing a very lucrative momentum game for a while there, that was based strictly on this aberration. It was a total aberration to increase the global money supply at the rate that we did. And nobody knows how the fallout is going to be, because we're just starting to see the tip of the iceberg, because we've got a lot of other dynamics with the liquidity that are positive for now, and all different other types of variables, but it's not going to stay that way. So, what happens is that people get used to this type of environment, and then there's a school of thought. It might be a little bit crude or out of date now. It was called catastrophe theory. It's not chaos theory, but it just says that when there's a new, I'll just use that cliche, regime change, that there's a dislocation and the market jumps from this level down to this level, and now you're down here, you see. So these types of dislocations can happen every couple years, and we just don't know how they're going to unfold in the future. So I think it just takes a long time to understand that the market is not a linear process, but we like to learn in a linear way, we algebra, regression analysis, that type of thing.
Everything you said, it really makes sense as to why we have to be professional. We have to get ourselves set up as a business. We have to have that focus so that we can avoid those distractions, make sure we have those physical outlets so that we can blow off some of that steam. And having that structured, methodical approach, it's all coming together in a beautiful package. Linda, I'd love it if you could give us a try this at home tip for our traders.
Let's see here. Try this at home. Okay. I'll give you a challenge if you want a challenge.
Bring it on.
Try not opening your internet for anything other than just trading for the whole trading day. Try that for one day. And if you can do that, then try it for a week. That means during the trading day, I don't care about evening hours, but during the trading day, no Twitter, no FinTwits, no blogs, no seeing what other people think, no blah, 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 blah. And if you can go 1 week, it's like trying to wean an alcoholic off of alcohol in like one day, in a very short period of time. But that will truly tell you how captive you are, how enslaved you are to habits and routines that are not optimal for trading. And it's the whole name of the game is concentration. It's all concentration and eliminating those distractions. So that's your challenge. See if you can make it just one day. Yes.
I actually wrote an article called Distraction Sickness, and it is exactly on this topic. LindaRaschke.net is your website. What can we find there, Linda?
I honestly have to confess, I haven't updated any articles for a really long time. It started off as a little blog that I just didn't, I'm not a blogger. I just really am not. I do have a bunch of articles and resources on there, stuff I've written in the past. My assistant, who I decided I was going to play tennis instead of trade. So he's got this trading room thing with him and Damon. And I have to tell you, this kid is fabulous. He's like a better version of myself, so he and Damon run this trading room all day. So for the low price of $200 a month, you can hear them all day long, calling out stuff all day long. And you have access to like 200 extra videos I've done over the years on every single topic under the sun. If you ever wanted resources on anything, there you go. So that's what's on my website. Oh, and it's probably the only place you can buy the last few copies of my Trading Sardine book.
Fantastic.
I didn't stick that on Amazon. I'm like, I don't like Amazon, so I don't know what's going to happen. I think I only have like 200 copies left, and then it'll be out of print. So.
Oh my gosh! Well, you're going to have to go there and find it for yourself. If you're listening to this resource, there probably won't be that many left.
Time and energy, it's like I did my stint. I wrote the book, and now it's move on. Who knows what else the next chapter will be?
Well, Linda, you have been an inspiration for the 30 years in the markets that I've been trading. That Market Wizards book that you came out in by Jack Schwager, it really gave me an idea that women can see it and be it. And I know you haven't meant to be the role model for female traders, but oh heck, you have been. So thank you so much for your time and inspiring a massive group of women to follow after you.
Oh, well, that's a nice thing to say. Thank you, Louise. And it's nice to see you in a nice position as well.